Bon matin tout le monde. Tout d'abord, j'aimerais offrir mes condoléances à la famille et aux amis de Breanna Broadfoot, qui a été récemment tué par un homme qui avait déjà été accusé criminellement, mais pour des raisons que je ne connais pas, il était libre pour faire encore de la criminalité. Elle est l'une des victimes les plus récentes du système de libération automatique bloc libéral. Après 9 ans du bloc libéral, après 3 projets de loi radicales libérales qui libèrent des criminels automatiquement, on voit aujourd'hui une hausse dans le taux de criminalité violente de 50%. 50% plus de violence ciblée aux gens innocents. C'est le résultat direct de la loi C-75 qui permet la libération sous caution automatique des criminels récidivistes et violents. La loi C-5, appuyée par le Bloc, qui permet les criminels les plus violents et récidivistes de faire leur peine à la maison, les peines Netflix. Et la loi 83, qui permet par Paul Bernardo et d'autres meurtriers de s'échapper des prisons maximales pour avoir plus de liberté. Et les conséquences sont maintenant connues. Après 9 ans de ces politiques, on voit une énorme hausse dans la criminalité. Selon les données publiées il y a 1 heure par Statistique Canada, la crime violente a augmenté de 50%. Les homicides, 27%. Les agressions sexuelles, 75% augmentation. Les crimes liés aux armes à feu ont augmenté de 116%. Intéressant, hein? Le Bloc et les libéraux veulent bannir des armes de chasse. Ils interdisent des armes des gens qui ont un permis pour faire le tir sportif ou la chasse. Et après tout ça, on voit une augmentation dans la criminalité. Donc, bannir des citoyens honnêtes et légitimes n'arrête pas la criminalité. Une augmentation de 116% dans les crimes liés aux armes à feu après 9 ans du Bloc libéral. L'extorsion a augmenté de 357%. Le vol d'auto, 46%. Ça, c'est les résultats. Le ministre de la Justice a dit que c'était juste une perception que le crime était en hausse, que les Canadiens étaient juste en train de croire des théories de complot. Non. Non, Monsieur le ministre. Le crime était en hausse à cause de vos politiques radicales et libérales en termes de criminalité et de drogue. On voit ici à London des bidonvilles, des villes en tente qui multiplient à cause des politiques de Justin Trudeau et l'NPD et le Bloc québécois qui ont doublé le coût de logement et essaimé les drogues partout dans nos rues. Et qu'est-ce qu'on a des libéraux? Un plan secret maintenant révélé à cause de Blacklock's Reporter de décriminalisation nationale de la crack, cocaïne, héroïne et toute autre drogue, ce qui serait plus disponible que des bonbons à un magasin après si Justin Trudeau et le Bloc sont réélus. C'est juste le début. On a aussi le coût de la vie. Le coût de logement a doublé après 9 ans du Bloc libéral, qui bloquent la construction de logements. Les taxes, déficits et impôts rendent la vie inabordable et punissent le travail. La dette nationale est doublée et notre économie est en chute libre, ayant tombé plus rapidement que toutes les autres économies dans le G7 en termes per capita. Maintenant, la Banque du Canada révèle que notre économie est en chute et essaie de venir en aide pour renverser la crise. Aujourd'hui, on voit que le Bloc ne représente pas les valeurs financières des Québécois parce qu'un sondage montre que plus que 70% des Québécois croient que le gouvernement fédéral dépense trop. Et le Bloc a voté pour ces dépenses-là. Le Bloc a voté pour 500 milliards de dollars de dépenses bureaucratiques, inflationnistes et centralisatrices parce que le Bloc supporte Justin Trudeau. Le Bloc ne travaille pas pour les Québécois, il travaille pour Justin Trudeau. Seulement le Parti conservateur, basé sur le gros bon sens, a une solution pour ces politiques-là. Nous allons couper taxes et impôts, bâtir des logements, repérer les budgets et stopper les crimes. Nous allons stopper les crimes en mettant les vrais criminels en prison, en mettant fin à la libération sous caution et la libération conditionnelle pour les récidivistes. Si vous faites des crimes, vous allez être en prison, pas dans votre salon regardant Netflix, pas libéré sous caution. Nous allons bannir les drogues et fournir un traitement pour mettre fin à la dépendance et pour protéger nos enfants et rendre la vie sécuritaire. On sait que l'approche conservatrice fonctionne parce que ça a déjà fonctionné. Pendant les années conservatrices de Stephen Harper, de Stephen Harper, la criminalité violente est tombée de 25% parce que les criminels les plus sévères étaient en prison, les drogues étaient bannies, les rues et des endroits comme ça pour les enfants étaient sécuritaires. C'est ça le gros bon sens. Ramenons le gros bon sens chez nous. En plus, une autre chose, je revendique aujourd'hui que Justin Trudeau mette fin à ses vacances pour retourner au Parlement, pour immédiatement renverser toutes ces lois qui ont libéré ces criminels et ont causé cette crise de criminalité. C'est pour ça que je vais rédiger une lettre au Premier ministre revendiquant le retour au Parlement dès maintenant pour combattre la criminalité que lui et le Bloc ont libérée avec leurs lois. On n'a pas de temps pour les vacances lorsque les Canadiens sont en train de mourir à cause des crimes et des drogues. Il faut qu'on agisse dès aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for coming, everyone. I'd like to start by offering my condolences to the family and loved ones of Breanna Broadfoot, who, a 17-year-old beautiful girl from London, killed by someone who had already been arrested, but for reasons I don't understand, was released to carry out domestic violence on her again. She is just the latest victim of the radical NDP wacko catch and release justice system, or I should say injustice system. It allows the same repeat violent offenders to go free again and again. Justin Trudeau and the NDP told you all that it would work, that all the so-called experts agreed that freeing criminals onto the street 50, 60, 70 times within hours of their latest arrest would somehow make us all safer. Most Canadians thought it was wacko, and they were right. Today, the data is out from Stats Canada. Data released moments ago show that violent crime is up 50% after 9 years of Trudeau and the NDP Liberals. Homicides up 28%. Sexual assaults 75% higher. Violent firearm offenses up 116%, more than double. Extortion up 357%, as small business owners get letters telling them that if they don't pay $1 million, there'll be a bullet flying through their 6-year-old daughter or son's bedroom window in the middle of the night. That's what's happening on our streets. Auto theft, up 46%. This is the direct result of NDP Liberal catch and release policies that turn the same repeat offenders loose on our streets again and again and again. Just last week, we saw a story of 18 offenders charged with 150 crimes. 9 of them were already out on some sort of early release, and since their arrest, 6 of them have been released again. And what do you know? They're out doing more and more crime. A very tiny group of criminals doing all the crime. Even the Justice Minister has had his car stolen 3 times. Incredible. You'd think the criminals would be somewhat grateful that he keeps releasing them. But no, they steal his car too, and he is too dense to figure out that they should be locked up. This is the same guy who said that crime wasn't rising, it was just a perception. He said that Canadians were just believing crazy conspiracy theories about crime, and that the smart people who stare at screens and look at spreadsheets knew better. Well, now the spreadsheets are out, and they confirm that catch and release, wacko NDP Liberal policies have caused one of the worst crime waves in Canadian history. Look at the firearms issue. Remember they told us if they banned hunters and sport shooters who are licensed, law-abiding, trained, and tested, that those people that all of a sudden we wouldn't have gun crime? Well, here we are, more crime. Why? It turns out that hunters are not the problem, nor are licensed sport shooters. They've already been trained and tested. They've had all of their backgrounds checked, and they're daily checked on the police database system. Right? Those people don't commit crime. I want to protect Canadians from criminals, while Trudeau and the NDP want to protect turkeys from hunters. You decide which makes more sense to you. We see the chaos here in London with tent cities popping up everywhere. Now, this is obviously partly the result of the NDP Liberals doubling your housing costs, but also they're giving out drugs, taxpayer-funded opioids that are ending up in the hands of kids, despite the lies of those who are in the system who are profiting from it, are making the drug problem even worse. And now we learn that the NDP Liberal government had a secret document planning national decriminalization. They tried to keep it under wraps until after the next election, hoping Canadians would not find out. But Blacklock's reporter got their hands on the document, and it showed a secret scheme to legalize crack, heroin, cocaine, and other hard drugs, which, if Trudeau and the NDP are reelected, will be as easy to get in your neighborhood as a candy bar at a corner store. This is reality, my friends. After 9 years of Trudeau and the NDP Liberals, everything is broken. Canadians are broke, and NDP Liberals are not worth the crime, chaos, cost, and corruption. Speaking of costs, we see that our economy is collapsing. The Bank of Canada is forced to try and come to the rescue as the bank governor sees our economy shrinking faster than any other G7 country. We have the worst economy in the OECD. We're hemorrhaging jobs, all while inflation is once again rising. Trudeau and the NDP have doubled our national debt, and now they plan to quadruple the carbon tax, hiking the cost of gas 61 cents a litre, which will raise the cost of food, of heat, of gas, of everything that Canadians buy. This is a radical, wacko scheme that Canadians cannot afford, and we are seeing it metastasize onto our streets everywhere. Fortunately, common sense conservatives will bring home the country we knew and still love. We will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. We'll axe the carbon tax to bring down gas, heat, and grocery bills. We will build the homes by requiring municipalities speed up permits, free up land, and cut development taxes to build 15% more homes per year as a condition of getting federal funds. We'll cap spending and cut waste to fix the budget and bring down interest rates and inflation, and we will stop the crime with jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders who will no longer be eligible for bail, house arrest, probation, or parole. We will secure our borders with high-powered scanners that will ensure that shipping containers can no longer bring drugs and guns in and stolen cars out. And we will honor our law-abiding, licensed, trained, and tested firearms owners by protecting their ability to use their property instead of spending $7 billion to go hunt them down and take away what they have been using lawfully and legally. And finally, we will combat the drug crisis that Trudeau has unleashed. We will do away with taxpayer-funded hydromorphone and other hard drugs that the industry of money-sucking activists, drug companies, bureaucrats, and hackademics. We will cut that back. There will be no more money for any of them. All the money is going to go into treatment and recovery services, detox, counseling, group therapy, sweat lodges for First Nations, physical exercise, job placement, transitional housing. This is how we're going to bring our loved ones home drug-free. What I'm talking about, my friends, is common sense, the common sense of the common people united for our common home. Now let's bring it home.
Thank you. We'll now have time for 4 questions from the floor.
Hi, Randy Richmond from London Free Press. Could you point us to evidence showing that drugs that are given out for free are ending up in the hands of children?
Oh, I don't have to. You just have to ask the police, and even the so-called experts have now been caught on television or on tape saying that they're being diverted. And in BC, the Public Health Authority, which has been a great advocate of this radical scheme, has admitted that it's ending up in the hands of children. Adam Zivo from the National Post has done intrepid reporting on this, where he's shown that the cost of a hydromorphine tablet has dropped on the street, has dropped by like 95%, because as soon as the addicts get the drugs, they resell it so they can buy something more potent, and it has being handed off to kids. So look at what the public health activists and even there's one so-called doctor here in town who was caught on tape admitting that there's diversion of those drugs. So the evidence is in, and it's final. And I would also encourage the media to be more responsible. It is just so irresponsible for you to go and quote people who profit from the ongoing drug crisis as though they are experts. They are not experts. If they were experts, their policies, which have been implemented over the last 9 years, would not have caused 40,000 deaths, would not have seen an over 100% increase in opioid overdoses. The last thing they want is for the crisis to end, because they're making so much money off of it. We've got to stop feeding the activist class and start providing treatment and recovery. I would encourage you, if you're going to cover this drug issue, stop talking to the people who caused the problem. Start talking to the recovery centers. I would ask, why don't you ask the people, when you interview them, why don't you ask them, how many people have you got off drugs? Call them up, the local public health authorities, ask them how many people they've gotten off of drugs. Because it's interesting, the media rewards these people for the carnage that they're causing. You call them experts. They're not experts. They're expert only at one thing, and that is perpetuating the drug crisis. Their policies have been implemented for the last 9 years, and we see the results. The experts are the people at places like Harvest House in Ottawa or the Oak Centre in Winnipeg, where they bring people in and get them off of drugs. Let's start quoting them as the experts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning. Andrew Lawton, True North. I know you're familiar with Alberta's approach to drugs, which similarly to you is very much against so-called safe supply, but they have proposed a forced intervention and in some cases really using the mechanisms of law to push drug users into treatment under certain conditions. Would you support something like that nationally?
I don't know. I need to study it more. I need to understand how it would work. I want everybody who's on drugs to be in treatment and rehab to get off drugs. What I haven't been able to figure out is if someone doesn't want to be rehabilitated, can you require them to be? I don't know. I'd like to see some evidence for and against before I make a judgment. Tracy Gray from BC is an MP in our caucus, a common sense conservative, who's proposed that we have treatment in the prisons and that judges have the ability to make it part of a sentence that drug-related offenses have drug treatment as part of the sentence, so that the offender who perhaps they were involved in theft, we know the theft was linked to their addiction. The judge could say, while you're in prison, you're required to be drug-free, and we're going to provide you with high-quality treatment behind bars. That makes sense to me, because they're already going to be in prison anyway. They might as well be cleaning up their body and their souls and their addictions. But I don't know if you can take someone off the street who has not committed that has not committed a prison offense and successfully rehabilitate them. If we can, I'm open to it, but I need to see more evidence at this point.
Thank you. Next question.
Craig Needles from Blackburn Media. You mentioned some of those rehab centers and the work that's being done there. How would you go about getting more of those open and in a timely manner as well? Because there are people who are using safe supply right now that if that was just cut off all of a sudden, they would be in a very difficult situation. It could be a life and death situation when it comes to withdrawals. So how would you be able to do this quickly? Because OHIP-funded rehab is still very difficult to find. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these people are clearly struggling financially.
That's a very good point. It is too hard to find right now. And that's why a lot of people don't get help. They try, they call a 1-800 number, they dig around, family members go scrounging around to try and find out what's available. They're then told that it's $40,000 to put someone in a treatment, Sebastian, in a treatment facility. So I appreciate that it's very hard for people to get into these programs. But that's why we need to repurpose the money that's now being spent on unsafe supply and harm production. Stop giving money to academics, bureaucrats, activists, and others who are perpetuating the problem, and fund the treatment facilities so that they can expand. We have treatment facilities. The problem is there are not enough of them. So, if you went to the places that have proven track records of getting people off drugs, and you said, if we repurpose some of the money we're already spending, could you expand your service to more people? That I think is the best way to do it. And as I would do across government, I think we should pay for results. We should pay organizations that actually get results. The result is to get people off drugs. And as we get closer to the election, we will have more details on how we will repurpose those dollars to put them into treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be the final question.
Good morning, Sean Irvin from CTV News. Just along the lines of what you've been talking about already this morning, Mr. Poilievre, in regards to drawing kind of a tough line of what your party is proposing. Scott Cortese is with the London Area Community Health Centre, just located over here. During the police announcement, which I know your party is very familiar with, said that he wants a little time to come up with better protocols, better options, better avenues. Is there any compromise here? You've drawn quite a line this morning, but is there any compromise opportunity where you could work with some of these folks, come up with a modified plan, or is there strictly one option here in your mind?
Are you talking, on what subject? Are we talking now drugs or crime?
I'm talking safe supplies.
Well, again, how can you possibly report on the story when you're already using government propaganda? It's not safe. Yes, that's the problem. You're using the term they're using. How can you, so you've decided, you've already made up your mind, you're going to report their statements as though they're true. Well, why are you using their language?
Yeah, that's the language being used in various news conferences and other policies.
Oh, yes,
Sure.
there are, of
However,
course. So
sir,
you're
I'm
just being force-fed talking points by the authorities who caused the problem in the first place.
Not at all.
This is exactly,
Yeah.
this is exactly the problem.
You hear
This
my
is
colleague
exactly the
behind you
problem.
saying London Police using the same
It's exactly the
terminologies.
problem.
London Police using the same terminology.
How's it working?
So I'm just asking you to answer the question
Yeah.
of whether or not there's any room to work with these other agencies or not, or whether you're going to stick to your proposals, which are your proposals. That's all I'm asking, sir.
My proposal is recovery and treatment. Am I going to give more money to these agencies that have caused the crisis? No. They're not going to get any more money. They've caused the mayhem. Have you been around, have you seen the tent cities?
I lived in this very neighborhood for 8 years.
Have you seen the tent cities? Okay, and you think that these agencies are doing a good job?
I think there's, sir, it's not my job to debate a federal leader on this issue, sir, but I will say that.
I'm asking you a question. Are you think they're doing a good job when you go to see the tent cities that are popping up everywhere in the country?
The community is doing the best job.
I agree with you on that, the community, but the agencies are different than the community. And again, you're repeating their talking points. I mean, there was a time when reporters believed their job was to hold government accountable, not regurgitate their talking points. And that's what you're doing. When you say safe supply, it's heroin-grade opioids that they want to give out. And it is being diverted to kids. It's not safe. Since this policy was enacted, we have seen overdose rates more than double across Canada. And where these policies have been most enthusiastically embraced, like British Columbia, it's 400%. I don't understand how the media goes to the same agencies and public health bureaucrats who helped cause the crisis and calls them the experts, when in fact the results of their policies are plain for all eyes to see. There's 256 homeless encampments in Toronto now. 50 of them have opened up in 3 months alone. Like the 25% of Canadians are living in poverty. We've had 40,000 people die of drug overdoses. The approach that we're taking, that the NDP Liberals and the bureaucracies that they employ are taking, is only making things worse. I will be taking that money and giving it to treatment and recovery services, not more drugs. Frankly, these NDP Liberal bureaucrats and activists who have been sucking up all the money are responsible for the crisis. We saw in BC, the Public Health Authority there wants to make drugs available in corner stores everywhere. They want to have something called compassion clubs where the government would give drugs out for people, to drug distributors who would wander around giving them out freely to anybody who wants them. This is why we're in the mess. We need a drastic departure from the nightmare that the radical, wacko, NDP Liberal agenda has caused in our streets. We need to lock up hardened criminals. We need treatment and recovery. We need to ban hard drugs. We need to bring our loved ones home drug-free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.